Hello again everybody, Daniel here. Following on from my previous video with the new features, this video goes into some of the advanced options that you've got with Soundbox, based on many of the questions that we get on the Soundbox support desk. That's where I've chosen those. So I hope this helps you, and so let's get right to it.
First thing I wanted to talk about was when you install Soundbox, there is an option to have a desktop icon. And if you did that, great. And if you're yet to install Soundbox, choose that option, it makes life easier. But if you chose not to have that shortcut on your desktop and you thinking, how I get that shortcut? This is more of a Windows tip than a Soundbox tip, but the way to do that on Windows 10 is similar to everything else, but on Windows 10 you click the Start button. Now Soundbox should be in the most used section if you've used it, if you've been fiddling and trying things out. But if it's not, you need to go to All Apps, and then it might be on Recently Added if you've just installed it, but if it's not even in there, you go down to S and Soundbox. Okay, so to create the shortcut you need to right click, go to More, and then Open File Location, and it'll open where the shortcut is. It's actually placed in where the Start menu used to be for Windows 7, but Windows 10 still uses that feature but in a different way. So there you see is a shortcut there. You know it's a shortcut because it's got this little arrow. And basically then you just need to, with the right mouse button, drag it with the right mouse button pressed to the desktop and let go and choose Copy here. Don't move it because then it will disappear from there. So copy. Alright? So that creates the shortcut there. And that moves on nicely to the first feature I want to talk about. And actually this is probably the most common question, problem if you like, that comes up on the Sounddesk support desk. And that is how to run Soundbox using different languages. The first and easiest way of setting it up applies mainly if each congregation uses a unique language. So you've got one English, one French, one Spanish, one Polish, etc. So none of them share a language. The easiest way of dealing with that is to create a Windows login for each of those accounts, and then set those logins to be that language. I'll show you how to do that in Windows 10. You press the Start button, go to your name in the top left here, which is the name of the login you're currently using. Click that and go to Change Account Settings. On the left hand side you'll see excuse me, Family and Other Users. Click that, and at the bottom of that page you see Other Users and Add Someone Else to This PC. Click that. How will this person sign in? It always assumes that you're going to have a Microsoft account for each login, but for the Kingdom Hall PC this really isn't necessary. So click I don't have this person's sign-in information, and then it asks to create a Microsoft account. Again, you don't need to do that, so click Add a User without a Microsoft account, and then it asks you to give the account a name. This doesn't have to be a name, it could be the name of the congregation, so we'll just call this French 1, but you see what I mean. You can choose to have a password or not. We'll go next. There you go, that's done, but not quite. You see now it's in the list of accounts, and when you look, restart the computer it'll now ask you. But if you click it, you need to change the account type to administrator firstly, and then click OK. There is an argument to say you should only have one administrator account and then password protect that, and then have all the congregations use a standard account. I see the point, but it makes life a lot harder because each congregation really needs to have someone who's tech savvy and can make the settings change the settings as necessary, and you don't want to have to log in and log back out as different users every time you do that. So set them all to be administrator. It makes life a lot easier, but that's up to you. Anyway, so now you can carry on adding all the users to the computer. And then you need to log in as that user. Change the settings in Windows to have a region, the keyboard, the input, everything to be the language you want it to be. It's a bit of a faff, but get that done. And then when you run Soundbox in that account, it'll see the Windows is set to be French, so it'll run French or Spanish, whatever. Okay, so that's that. There is a bit of an issue with Windows 10 in that as you add more users, Windows automatically logs in to the previous logged in user. So the way around that, there are sort of registry hacks and all these fiddly bits to try and get it to come up with the login option screen every time. But the easiest way is before you turn the computer off, click your account and sign out, and then switch off, and it'll come back on to the Windows login options. Okay, that's one way. Let's remove that account. I don't need it on this computer. The other way applies where you've got multiple congregations sharing the same language. Can be a bit fiddly because they'll share a lot of folders in Soundbox. So the way around that is the more technical way of doing things, and that is to adjust the Soundbox shortcut itself. That's why I did that at the beginning about getting the shortcut there ready. Firstly, you're going to need to create as many shortcuts as you need for the congregations that share your hall. So the easiest way to do that is to right click the shortcut, go to copy, go to a blank part of the desktop, right click and click paste, and you'll see Soundbox copy, and do that again, Soundbox copy 2, and keep doing that until you've got all the congregations that all the shortcuts you need. So I've done 4 now, and then you need to just rename the shortcuts as you see fit. Then you need to adjust the shortcut command. You may have done this before, you may not. But firstly, I wanted to direct your attention to the page in the user guide that I'm getting this from. I strongly encourage you to look at the user guide whenever you've got an issue, because it covers pretty much all scenarios. And I've got it open here, and it's on page 69 at the bottom, language, and it tells you what to do here. But sometimes it's easy to see someone doing it, so you right click the shortcut you need to change, and then left click properties, and here comes the shortcut properties. And you need this box here where it says target. You need to click in there, and if you can, click right at the end of this where it's highlighted in blue, so past the speech marks or quotation marks. See, now the cursor is flashing after the speech marks. If you don't manage to get that, you can either use the arrow keys to get to the end or press the end key on your keyboard. All keyboards have got that, and that jumps to the end. And then you need to type a space followed by the command for language, which, as you'll see in the PDF, is /lang equals. So /lang equals, and then as you see in the manual, the language identifier is the ISO 639-1 2 letters lowercase culture code associated with a language. If that all means gobbledygook to you, it did to me to start with, but basically there's a standard, worldwide standard of language codes. I've got a PDF here, which I'll put a link to in the description to make life a bit easier, of the most common language codes in the world. So let me just zoom in a little, and you'll see the common ones. If it's just Finnish, for instance, it's FI. If it's just French, it's FR. But each language code has also got another section depending on where in the world they are speaking French. Not all these languages are supported in Soundbox, so you'll have to try it. The way to check that is to go to the Soundbox website. There's a list of languages it supports. There are 2 lists. One, the languages that the program supports for the interface, so the buttons and everything to be in the language you want it to be, and also the languages it supports for the songs and all the stuff it downloads. Okay, so you find out the code you want. In this case we want to do French, so we know it's FR. So you type in, back in this box, type FR. Okay, and click OK. That's where you need to remember that, rename the shortcuts, because now which one was French? But that's something you needed to have done. So if I now double click this, you'll see it says all in French. Basically, you don't have the sounds, you need to download the songs. So I'll do that now and speed up the video. As you can see, while it's nearly coming to the end now, is it's automatically added FR-FR to the folder structure of where it's putting the songs. So you don't have to think about it, it will automatically separate the English from the French, from the Spanish, into different folders, which is great. And as you saw, I only put FR, and it's put the dash capital FR because it assumes we're dealing with France French, if that makes sense, instead of Canadian French, for instance. So yeah, so when it's a base language, so France and French, you don't have to do the dash capital FR. The same goes for Spanish. If you look down here, Spanish in Spain is ES-ES. But if you just put ES, it'll assume it's that. Okay, and the three things it downloads, in case you're wondering, you've got the normal piano accompaniment, then the orchestral songs for the normal songs, and then finally the new songs, which are all orchestral. First one being the big one, and then they're getting smaller. So anyway, it's coming to an end now, so I'll speed it up again. Right, so that's done, and as you can see, Soundbox is completely in French. All the buttons, everything. If we go to options, and that would be settings, even these are all in French. Okay, that's great. Now if Soundbox only supports the songs being in that language and it hasn't had the whole interface translated, this will still be in English, but it would have downloaded the songs into the appropriate folder. So this goes to show that it's important to get things ready. So if you set it all up thinking, right, that's it, done, you don't want to have to wait for those to all download just before the meeting starts. You need to make sure it's all done ready for each congregation. Okay. So that's that. Easy, you think? Fairly. But what if you've got two French congregations? So let's close this and rename this French 1. And and call this one French 2. And make sure this shortcut is also set to run in French. So space /lang equals fr. That won't do anything. Both those shortcuts will do the same thing. It'll run the program in French. And as you can see here, after the version number and before the brackets, there's no congregation name. So we need to set up the congregations. You may know already how to do this. But if I come out of this and go to one of the English shortcuts, because I'm not very good at French, go to Options, Settings, and Miscellaneous, you'll see Congregations Collection. Click the little down arrow and type the name of all the congregations. So we've got French 1, French 2, English, Spanish. Okay, so that's that. Close that. And now open French. It's coming up with this every time. Because I've set the shortcut to be French, at least this bit is in French, but it's still coming up with the list of congregations, which seems a bit daft to having all these shortcuts and then having to choose a congregation as well. So again, that's another command to put in the options for the shortcut. If I close this and go back to the Soundbox PDF, you'll see down here are all the command line arguments, and the first ones are switches, which I'll go into later, but parameters here, we've got lang, we've sorted that one out, but underneath that you'll see /cong and then specify the name of the congregation. If there's a space in the name of the congregation, you have to enclose it in quotation marks. But so if I change this one, go to the end, it says language equals fr. Now I need to add another space. You need to separate each command with a space. /cong equals French 1. Okay, you then press enter or click OK. Now when I double click this icon, it goes straight into the French 1 congregation without having to ask me. If I double click this one, which is set to be in French, but it won't ask, it now still asks for the congregations because I haven't changed that shortcut. You see how it's working now? So that's it. That is how to run Soundbox in different languages and going straight to the congregation. One other feature that you need to be aware of is if we open an English one and go to Options and Settings, scroll down to Media, there's an option here, Share Media, that is automatically ticked. That, if we click it, it tells you what it means. Share media among same language congregations. This is the option where you can separate everything if you want. By default, all the French will use the same structure. You see it put a folder called fr-fr for that language. But you can choose to have everything separate, so the media, everything. And if you untick that, that's what will happen. I personally can't see an issue with sharing the media because we all have the same things at our meetings now. But you know, the option is there. If you untick that, you can then have separate media folders for each congregation, regardless of what language they're running in. Okay? So that is it about running Soundbox in different languages. Fairly simple, really. You just have to make sure you do that, type that language code in correctly, otherwise it won't work. The other option, while we're talking about all these options to put in the shortcut, let's go through some of them. Again, back to page 70 this time of the manual and top of page 71. they're split into two. You've got switches and parameters. We've just dealt with a couple of parameters now, where it's /lang//cong. These are different to the ones up here because these need an argument. So you don't just put /lang, it won't do anything. You need to then type equals and then the argument for that parameter. So as we've seen, the arguments for /lang are the two-code language code. The argument for /cong is the name of the congregation. And here we have, interestingly, all these are to do with folders. So where Soundbox looks for its data. Now, while we're on that subject, if we open Soundbox and go to media, for instance, and click folder, you'll see the Soundbox folder for everything is C, program data, Soundbox videos. And it's fine if you always use this option to get to the folder. But what if you wanted to get to the folder another way? So let's close Soundbox and just open File Explorer. So we know it's in C, and it was in program data. It's not there. The reason is program data is actually a hidden folder. And to get to it within Explorer, there are two ways. One way is to click up here and type the folder structure in the old DOS way, using backslashes and so on, to get to program data. But I won't go into that now, it's a bit fiddly. The easiest way to get to a hidden folder is to turn on the setting to display hidden folders, and that is by going to View up here. If you haven't got the ribbon showing, so if it's just like this, just click View and then go to click Options, and then on the View section of that box, in here, look, Show Hidden Files, Folders and Drives. It's not a frightening thing. It's not. It won't, you'll see a few folders dotted about when you're navigating your hard drive, but it won't show any important system files that you can then delete. That is another setting. That's this down here. Hide protected operating system files. Always leave that ticked. It's not worth risking deleting something important. Anyway, show hidden folders. And click OK. And now look, it's magically appeared. Program data. And you can double click that. There's Soundbox, and you're away. Ideal. But it's still not that convenient, is it, to get to, if you want to get to your folders differently. If you want to organise your own folder structure, you may choose to put them in documents or pictures or whatever. And the way to do that is another one of these commands for these shortcuts. So ideally, what you do first is get the folders ready. So if we go to videos and make a new folder, let's put my ribbon back on, new folder, let's call it Soundbox. And then go into that folder. Okay, so if we click in the white area, we can now see that that folder, it looks like it's buried deeper, but it still makes more sense because you've got direct access to that folder from these quick access links here. But it's in C, users, drwar, that's my username, videos and Soundbox. So if you right click, when it's blue, right click and go to copy. If it's not selected, just select it all by dragging across it and then going right click and get copy. Now let's bring up the PDF again. So this is for videos, so we want videos folder. So if we open, let's go to one of the English ones. In fact, let's rename it English so we know where we are. So right click, properties. Now this is English, so there are no commands at the moment. But what we could do while we're here is do Cong equals English. Now we'll put another space, and this time, as you can see here, the parameter is videos folder. So let's type that. So / videos, oh, I need to spell it right first, videos folder, and then equals, and this is where it's good practice to use quotation marks even if there's not a space in the file name. So let's put quotation marks and then Control V on the keyboard to paste what we'd copied earlier from the Explorer window over here. So Control V, and you can see it's placed exactly what we saw in that box, and then quotation marks again, and then press enter. So now let's open Soundbox. Just so you know, you may have noticed I didn't do a capital F. It's not actually important case, but it might be better practice to copy exactly what you see in this folder. I was a bit naughty then. But if we open Soundbox, go to Media, and this time click Folder, you'll see it jumps to this PC Video Soundbox, a different folder than it was before. And that's the same way for all the other folders. And as we go back to the PDF, you see there's one for songs, one for videos, miscellaneous, which is for the miscellaneous background music, which you get to here, and you can set to be different to normal music. Media files, websites, recordings, everything. Great, that's how you set all the different folders to be in different places. Which moves me on nicely to if you wanted to use a different cloud-based storage other than Dropbox. As we've seen in previous videos, Soundbox has got Dropbox support built in, which is great. But what if you've already got an account with lots of space on OneDrive or Google Drive or Amazon Drive, even any of them? How would you then have it upload to those instead? The Amazon one's a bit different because they don't provide a synchronization tool, but Google Drive and OneDrive do. Windows 10 comes with OneDrive installed already, but Google Drive has the same feature. So if I go to my Explorer while I'm here, you'll see OneDrive is here. If I go to OneDrive and make a new folder, Soundbox, recordings. Let's have, because we don't need all the other stuff. So Soundbox recordings, enter. As you see, it went from synchronizing to now ticked. If I go into that and now click in the white area, we know that's where the folder structure is. So right click that, go to copy. And now we need to change the shortcut. So let's close Soundbox. Right click the Soundbox shortcut and go to properties. And as we saw what we did earlier, the videos folder is now set to be that, but let's remove that for now. And the option now, as we see on the PDF, is rec folder. So type rec folder, I'll be good now and put the capital F. And then it's equals, quotation marks, paste what we'd copied previously. You see now it's OneDrive and Soundbox recordings, more quotation marks, press enter or click OK. Just a brief aside, bit of a Windows tip here. You may be wondering why when you've got a box like this you've got OK, cancel and apply. I see a lot of people make changes, so let's do that, so the apply button becomes available, where they click apply and then click OK straight after another. That is unnecessary. You never need to do that. The only time you ever need to click apply is if you want to set the changes you've just made but leave this open for you to make further changes. That's what apply means. You want to apply the changes but you've still got other things to do yet, so don't close the box. So if you made those changes, you want to remember it, so they've clicked apply, that's now saved. You then want to go into one of these sections and do something else without forgetting what you've done previously. Okay, and then you can click apply and then make more changes. But if you're done, if you've made all the changes you need to do, you don't need to click apply, you just need to click OK. And that applies to all Windows dialog boxes when there's an OK and apply box button. Okay, just a little tip. Anyway, we've done that, click OK. So now when we open this one, it'll appear like nothing's happened, which is fine. So let's start recording, just to give it so that it's recorded something, and it's recording my voice. It'll only be a short recording. Let's click stop. So that's done. Now when you go to copy, you'll see there's a recording we've just made, today's date, and that'll be what I've just done. And there's a folder button there. If we click that, you'll see it's automatically put them in the OneDrive folder like we told it to, but now it's added some more folders. So if we go to the Soundbox recording folder, which I told it to, you'll see there's a 2016 folder. If I double click that, there's now a 06 folder. That refers to the month, so that's June. And then there's another folder which is the date in American format. So the 9th of June 2016. If we double click that, there's the recording. A bit convoluted, but now that will automatically get synchronized to my OneDrive, and you can then share that to someone. Obviously that's my personal OneDrive, but you could then have a OneDrive account for the Kingdom Hall, because the reason I say this is that both OneDrive and Google Drive offer more on their free service. Google Drive is 15, and which is 15 gigabytes, that is, so that'd be loads for months worth of recording. OneDrive I think's gone down to 5 now, but it's still more than Dropbox, which is great. So now it can be synchronized to there instead. Just as an aside, this is done outside of Soundbox. Soundbox doesn't know that it's in the OneDrive folder. It doesn't care. It's just saving it to the folder you told it to. And the OneDrive application on your computer is doing the synchronizing, or the Google Drive, whatever. What you could do now, it's set to go to this folder, but I could also set up Dropbox. Why you'd want two, I'm not quite sure, but it could be a case of some brothers know how to use OneDrive, some brothers know how to use Google Drive, and you could share it both ways. Just as long as you keep on top of it. You don't want to have files all over the place. These are just for meeting recordings, just for brothers, so you need to make sure that it doesn't get all lost. Sorry, my cat's climbing all over our table. Not very professional, is it? Come on, get lost. Anyway, so that's the folders. If we go back to the, let's close that and close that, go back to the PDF, all the others are to do with all the other folders. Again, you don't really need to synchronize any other folder apart from the recordings, but you could still have the folders in another place if you wanted to. But up here you'll see there are switches. These are different in that they don't require an argument. They're just a one command and it does what it's supposed to do. Most of them are to turn off various features. From this one all the way down to there, turns off parts of the interface. So no options will turn off this. So you can't click on it, it'll be greyed out. No record turns off that. You won't be able to click on it, it'll be greyed out, etc. This is to stop the brother on the sound desk from tinkering and changing things during the meeting. It doesn't mean, so if I say no record, it doesn't mean the Soundbox won't record. It just means the record button won't be available for you to go into and change things. If you've got Soundbox to automatically record, which is in automated there, and also there's various recording options in here as well, it won't mean that thing will stop. It won't record anymore. It just means you won't be able to go into the record feature and change anything. So the files will still be there, still be recorded, but the brother on the sound desk won't be able to change things, and that might be very useful to you. I can definitely see a point to turning off options, because we're all the same, aren't we? We're curious. We're there during the meeting, particularly a Sunday or a weekend meeting. There's lots of time where the brother on the sound desk is not actually doing anything, so you may get distracted and, I wonder what's in here. Oh yeah, there's lots of things in here, and you really don't want him doing that during the meeting. So great, that's how to turn things off. You'll see there's other things here. No lyrics, for instance, it will disable lyrics function. So even if you turned it on in here, it won't work. But really useful feature, I think, is this one, reset. If you get yourself completely lost, you can type -reset and it'll reset everything back to normal. I did explain that in my previous video. The top one, no GPU. If you've got an older laptop or an older computer for your sound desk with an older graphics adapter in it, turning that off might make it work better. So yeah, that's it for the command line options. Just shrink that out of the way. Now, what I said about the graphics adapter, while I'm here, something worth talking about. There have been a few issues recently where the media playback is a bit choppy or doesn't work very well. There's ways to fix that. The most common way to fix it is to update the computer. The easiest way to update the computer, particularly on Windows 10, is to press Start, go to Settings, go to Update and Security, and check for updates. Hopefully it will find an update for your graphics adapter, and that will probably fix everything. But if not, there might be a manual way of checking for an update to the graphics adapter driver. Very important to have the most up-to-date one of this. If it's an Intel driver, go to intel.com and there's a driver update function there where it will search your computer and tell you what drivers are available, and if there is an updated one, get it. If it's an AMD or NVIDIA driver, go to the AMD or nvidia.com websites and download the latest driver. You may find, well, that's not necessary because they're all for games. Yeah, a lot of the functions it talks about on those websites refer to games, so if I show you the AMD, or the NVIDIA rather, website, that's actually .co.uk if you're in Britain. Well, it would help if I typed it correctly. Try and do it one hand. And go to drivers, and GeForce drivers. GeForce is the name of their graphics adapter. And if you look, it's all very game oriented. So if I search for the latest, so if for instance you've got a GeForce 745 graphics card, for instance, and you're on Windows 10, so let's put that up. Okay, start search. It will find here all the drivers available, and you'll see they're all game-ready drivers. You know, I don't need that, I'm not playing games. Ignore that, because yeah, a lot of the optimizations are to do with games, but they will also help the playback of video. So make sure you've got the latest version. Be careful when installing them though, because a lot of both the AMD and the GeForce drivers, when you first install them, if you don't check it in the options, it will also install a game optimization piece of software. You don't need that running on a Kingdom Hall PC to untick that when you're installing it. Just a little tip. That also applies, that's for video playback, but what if you get in problem with sound? It also applies to the sound adapter as well. Make sure you've got the most up-to-date driver for your sound adapter. The most common sound adapter found in computers these days is the Realtek adapter, and the Windows will install a driver for it and it will work, but it sometimes doesn't work very well, so you need to go to the Realtek website, which is www, you have to do that on this site, Realtek, realtek.com.tw. They're a Taiwanese company, and press enter. Very old-fashioned website, they don't update it very often, but you'll see down here, this one, HD audio codec driver. That is the most common audio sound adapter driver found in computers. So click that, it'll ask you to agree about drivers, you just accept that, click next, and then it presents you with a big list of drivers available for it. But the only ones you need to worry about, these top two, 32 or 64-bit, if you know what version you're running. If you don't, right click the start button, go to system, and you'll see here system type. If it says 64-bit, download 64-bit. If it says 32-bit, the other. It hasn't been updated for a while, but even this one is a lot newer than the one Windows installs by default. So download that and install it. It'll make a big difference. Another thing that will help if you're having sound issues is to not use the built-in sound. We've had this on other videos, but it's very important to have a good sound adapter. And by far the best one is the Behringer adapter that you can get from Amazon, which you can see here. They do 202 and 222. They're both the same, actually, exactly the same inside. The 222 comes in a pretty box. That's the only difference. That you can, and some software that you can download or something. But you don't, I mean, it's only a few quid difference, but you may as well get the cheaper one. This takes away all the problems with sound adapters. It's on a little lead, so it can be hidden behind the PC. But it's got, if we look to one of these pictures, the most important feature of it are the types of adapter it can accept, and they're called phono leads, which is the most common lead you can get. So they're much less prone to interference, and it's a more common lead to have to connect to your amp at the hall. It makes such a difference. I really would recommend it. It's only 20 odd quid. I'm sure your congregation could afford it, so put it to the elders and I'm sure they'd agree to buy it. It makes a massive difference. So that's that. Let's close all this, shrink that out of the way, close that, and back to Soundbox. If you've got a setup like a lot of congregations where the computer is connected directly, however it's connected, but it's connected pretty much directly to the projector. It may be going through an extender lead, but it's connected via no other device. If you turn the computer on and the projector is not turned on, Windows will not see, go to display settings, it'll look like this. It won't see a secondary monitor, so it won't output to it. And then when you open Soundbox and go to media, it'll only show the main screen of the computer. It won't show any external monitor. Why am I going to do this? The easiest way around it, like I say, is to get a device, which I'll show you. This one is what I would recommend. They're a great company, they're a British company, Cableson, and they're very helpful on the phone as well. And as you can see, they do various options for depending on how much you want to split. If you've got screens all over the hall, you can have 4. We actually have one similar to that. They don't make the one we've got, but where it's split 4 ways, because we thought we were going to have more screens, but we're not. But anyway, but this one is enough for most congregations, and it basically splits the same signal out 2 ways. But even if you're not going to split it, the important thing is it's got EDID, which means even if the other devices aren't turned on, Windows will see an external monitor, and it uses very little power. So you can leave this on, hide it up in the loft or wherever the leads go, and then you don't have to worry about locking displays or anything. It will remember, everything will be remembered, because every time you turn the computer on, whether the projector is on or not, or whether the televisions are on or not, the computer will see the external screens, and it solves all those problems. Again, it's 40 quid. That's 60 odd pound split potentially at 2 or 3 ways if the congregation is sharing a hall. So it's really not a lot of money, and it solves so many problems. I would really encourage you to get one of those. Right, a couple more features that I wanted to go through. Let's close that. If we go to media and set it to be this display, you may have noticed in previous videos that it's showing that as my background image. You may think, how has he done that? It's quite simple. Let's turn that off. You need to create a file called background, and put it in the Soundbox folder. So if we close that, this is one instance where Soundbox will look to your documents folder first. So in documents, you'll see a Soundbox folder. If I double click that, this is where you put the file, the background file. If you don't put it in here, you can also put it in Program Data Soundbox, and there you see that's where mine was. But let's delete that one for now and reopen Soundbox and go to Media and set it. You see now it's black. Now that can be a problem, especially with the projector, because you think, why is it working? We don't know it's working, and there's trepidation. You don't know until you actually click play, do you know if it's actually working? So it's easier to have something displayed. The various options for that. Some congregations like to have the ear text displayed when it switches to that screen. You could do that, you just need to create the image and put it in the folder. But it's not just a case of that, you need to make sure it's the correct type of image. So if I close that and go to my pictures, you see I've got a nice picture here. Well, I think it's quite nice. It's sort of a black and white background with a JW.org logo. What if you wanted that? You can't just drag that folder in, and you'll see it's a JPEG file here. However, Soundbox needs a PNG file, which if I click here, this one is a PNG file. So if I just rename this background, that's not enough. So well, you might say, well, I'll tell you what, all you need to do is do background.png. Now I'm afraid that won't work either, because it's still a JPEG file. And the reason is, if you look at all these other files, there's no dot anything after all the files. By default, Windows will not show the dot bit at the end. And it's the dot bit at the end, or the extension as it's properly called, that tells Windows what type of file it is. And I would recommend you turn that function on to make sure that you know what you're looking at. So go to View and Options again, as we did earlier, and in View you'll see here Hide Extensions for Known File Types. Untick that and click OK. Now you'll see, yeah, I renamed it background.png, but actually the file is called background.png.jpg. So you think, oh great, just rename it and get rid of the JPEG. I'm afraid that won't work either. You may get away with it, but it doesn't actually convert the image. What you need to do, it's quite simple, is right click, open with Paint, because it will try and open it with the Photos app. But if you right click and go open with Paint, and then go to File, Save As, and you'll see in the Save As box, PNG picture is one of them. And then you can call it background.png and save. Close that. If you're running an older version of Windows, particularly with Windows 7 and before, the Paint application is pretty hopeless and it doesn't offer many features at all. If you wanted a better program, there is a really good free alternative to that called paint.net. I'll put the link in the description, or I'll place it up on the screen here. It's free and it's quite lightweight and simple, and it allows you to convert images quickly. But Windows 10, the Paint program is fine. Anyway, I've renamed it background.png. So what you need to do is copy it first of all. So just select it, click copy, and then go to your Documents folder and Soundbox and click paste. Now if I open Soundbox and go to Media, Display 1, there you go. Changes it to that. So turn that off. That's great, but if I go to the French and go to Media and tell it to be Display 1, it's the same image, which is fine if you only want the same image. But if you wanted the year's text and you wanted the year text to be in English and the year text to be in French, the way to get around that, let's turn this off and close it, is to rename or create another background image, place it in here, but have background dot the language code and then .png. So if let's go back to our pictures, I've already made that black background PNG. So let's copy that, go to my documents and Soundbox and paste that, but obviously it can't be called that, so let's rename it background, but this time put in between the .png .fr, enter. So now if I go to the English, let's shrink that out of the way, go to the English one, go to the media, display one, it'll display that image we showed earlier. If I go to the French one, go to media, set it to display that one, it displays that image. Okay, so that's how you'd have different background images for the different languages. Another problem that we're seeing on the support desk is when it comes to displaying PDF files. So if I go to Soundbox, go to media and go websites and PDFs, and then go into my downloads, you'll see I've got the Soundbox PDF there, so let's drag that in. I can now set the media display to be this screen and display that PDF. So what have we got here? We've got a problem here, it wants to open it. You don't want to do that in the middle of, and then it opens Edge. You don't want that. What you need to make sure of is that you've got a PDF reader on your computer that can be displayed within Internet Explorer. The way around this is to get a PDF reader that installs a plugin for the browsers on your computer. The most common one is Adobe Acrobat Reader, and that will work, but the downside to it, the latest version displays all loads of toolbars and buttons and stuff on the screen when it displays the PDF, which you really don't want. You want there to be minimal interface, and the most minimal interface I have found is one called Nitro Reader. It's actually a good reader anyway. So again, don't worry if this isn't your personal preference at home. This isn't for that. This is to make it the best at the haul. And in my opinion, this one displays the least fluff around the PDF. So get Nitro Reader from the address shown on the screen now and install it. It asks for your name and email address. I'm afraid you can't get around that. And just install it. The downside to this program, installs great, as you can see I've already got it on here, and if I open it, it opens PDFs lovely. They display. It's just PDF readers, not doing a great deal really. Unfortunately, it's not clever enough to set itself as the default PDF reader in Windows 10 yet. It works in Windows 7 but not in Windows 10. The way around that in Windows 10 is to go to Start and Settings, and then on the left hand side there, System, and then go Default Apps. It's a bit convoluted, but this is the easiest way of getting to it, or easy to explain it anyway. And then Set Defaults by App. So click that and it'll open another program, and down here you can see all the programs installed on your computer, and if we see Nitro Reader 5 is there, and it says this reader has all its defaults, but if you tick that again, set this program as default, it's done properly now. So if I click OK, close that, open my documents folder, my downloads folder where my Soundbox PDF is, double click it, it opens Nitro Reader, so we know it works. So a bit of a fiddle, but anyway, it's done. So now if we go to Soundbox, go to Media, go to Websites and PDFs, open Soundbox and launch it, you'll see there is stuff around the PDF, but it's very minimal. The others have got loads on display, which is a nightmare. I mean, it's still not easy to display PDFs like this because you have to control it, whether that be pressing, I would use the page up, page down button to get to the PDF you want, to get to the page you want. If it's a multi-page document on the computer, just press page down to get to the page. But it's not ideal. But You've got to do what you've got to do. It's a nightmare when you're trying to display it on the same screen as I'm doing now. I have to Alt-Tab to get back to Soundbox and then click close and wait for it to sort itself out. But when it's on an external screen, obviously Soundbox is always available, so you can just click close. So that's PDFs. So like I say, make sure you've got a reader of some kind, and in my opinion the Nitro reader is the most minimal interface anyway. Okay, so that's a little insight into some of the advanced features of Soundbox. There are more, and if there's any that you want me to explain in more detail in another video, please let me know either in the comments below or get in touch with me via the support desk for Soundbox, and I will endeavour to do that. Again, like I said at the beginning, sorry it's taken me so long to create these videos, but I've been busy in real life, is that the right thing to say? I don't know. We've just had a refurb on our hall, so I've been busy with that. But I hope you enjoyed that. If you liked it, please like the video. It helps me to know that people are enjoying it, and feel free to leave a comment and give me any comments below. So thanks again. Bye bye now.